Fastest in time qualifying, Anwar Barul Smith starts in pole position for the first day final, ahead of David Sutcliffe. Experienced endurance racer Bon Vidon and raconteur Paul Williams tries his hand at sprinting in 2013, starts on grid 3. Super 1 TK Extreme driver Scott Cheney on grid 4. Russell Endine, Keith Mizzen start on row 3. Leading super heavyweight Steve Billett on grid 7. Rob Nash, Roger Mullen, Peter Kay round out the top 10 of a grid of 20, joined by Liam Hitchin, Oliver Hall, Josh Walsh and Oliver Nitch-Smith. From the front of the B final, Union flag flying, Barul Smith takes a look at Sutcliffe and gets the hole shot, and Paul Williams on his bumper is going through to second. Around turn 1 and heading down for the first big break into hairpin 1. Sure to be contact down here. Peter Kay in the red lid run very wide there by Lenny Wood, who goes down the inside into hairpin 2, and there's a lot of contact. I think that's with Paul Crawford into the S's, and Barul Smith leads from Paul Williams. David Sutcliffe under a lot of pressure from Russell Endine, and he's lost out to both Endine, Scott Cheney and Keith Mizzen. Mr. Martini trying to find a way by, but it's Steve Billett who's done 3 of them at once. Up to Garda, Roger Mullen trying to find a way down the inside of Scott Cheney, and David Sutcliffe's into tyres. Keith Mizzen has lost ground and he's on the nose of Peter Kay under pressure from Ben Shaw. End of lap 1, Anwar Barul Smith leads by half a second from Paul Williams, who's got half a second on Russell Endine. Ben Whibley goes down the inside of Ben Shaw and through to 12th place. Ahead, Peter Kay looking for a way past Keith Mizzen. Paul Crawford down the inside of Rob Nash, trying to get on the bumper of Lenny Wood. In 7th place, Mizzen trying to come back at Rob Nash, getting a run over the curbs, but Nash has got the momentum, and he looks down the inside of Crawford as Peter Kay goes round the outside of Keith Mizzen. Great move from Peter Kay, hard on his bumper, pulling it up for Paddock. Rob Nash goes narrow, love tap from Kay, who gets a tap from Mizzen. Is this a chance for Ben Whibley, or is it Ben Shaw coming back at Whibley? Piles in, Garda has to wave him back through, and he's lucky not to have taken out Keith Mizzen ahead of them. Battles through the field, and Shaw's under pressure from Sam Fisher, and Josh O'Hagan's going to get a run on Fisher over start finish, and he's through into turn 1 and down the inside of Ben Shaw. Great move from Josh O'Hagan up to 13th. Now can he hold off Shaw at the hairpin? Paul Williams beginning to come under pressure in the fight for second place by Russell Endine. Barul Smith half a second clear, Billett 4th, Roger Mullen 5th, Scott Cheney in 6th. The rest of the field stream through. Shaw under pressure now from card number 40, James English, plunging through Simon Sweet. Setting up for Pullmans, on board with Oliver Nitch-Smith in 22nd, braking for Paddock, getting back on it and across to Garda. But the leaders are coming through to end lap 3 and go on to lap 4. Barul Smith's lead is still half a second, but Russell Endine has moved on to the bumper of Paul Williams. On board with Peter Kay, we're looking at Rob Nash, who's run a little bit wide. Is this an opportunity for Kay to strike down at the hairpin? Russell Endine goes for second. Gets his nose inside and has cleared Paul Williams. Now, is Steve Billett close enough to take advantage? There's the leader. Now Billett is losing ground. He's 2 seconds off the lead. Mullen, Cheney, gap to Crawford, Wood, Nash, Kay, Mizzen. Oh, Ben Whibley under pressure from Josh O'Hagan. Just about holds him off, but he's slow off the corner. Can O'Hagan strike a Garda? Not close enough. On board with James English in 15th, trying to get a good run through centre, and he's got one. Josh O'Hagan had to check up behind Whibley. Flat out through Cafe Curve and down to turn 1. O'Hagan going a little bit narrow, looking down the inside of Whibley. I think he was trying to put off James English. Cheney beginning to close on Roger Mullen in 5th. Into the S's, looking to get a good run. Mullen went in a little bit deep on the S's. This could be a chance down at Paddock for Cheney. Cheney wants to be by. Mullen not particularly quick down the hill, but Mullen comes straight back at him into Garda. They'll lose ground on the carts ahead of them. Cheney's going to try the undercut on the run up to Cafe Curve. Mullen making it very narrow, and they're rubbing side pods. And Paul Crawford's in the mix now, and he's going to get a run down the inside on the pair of them. into turn 1, can't get it done. Mullen holding off Scott Cheney, and this is inviting in Paul Crawford to do the pair of them now. He's got the line into the hairpin. Mullen prepared to fight it out, and it's 3 wide off hairpin 2. Mullen hangs on, but Cheney's lost out to Crawford. And Lenny Wood joins in. Rob Nash, Peter Kay, Keith Mizzen, all coming back to this battle. Sweeping downhill they come. Into Pullmans. Can Mullen hold off Paul Crawford? Whoa, bit of contact there. Mullen gets away with it. Scott Cheney now trying to hold off Lenny Wood and get past Paul Crawford at the same time. Rob Nash under pressure from Peter Kay. Great dice in heavyweights. The B final was fairly quiet by comparison. Here comes Lenny Wood down the inside into turn 1 ahead of Crawford. So Lenny Wood moves up to 7th. Next target is Cheney. Crawford trying to come back at him straight away into hairpin 2. Not close enough. Cheney now holding off Lenny Wood. Narrow line into hairpin 2. This could give Wood a good run off the corner and a run down the hill. Steve Billett is beginning to close on Paul Williams in 3rd. Reasonable line through paddock. James English closing in on number 2, Josh O'Hagan. Into paddock himself. That's neatly done. Looking to the inside into Garda, not close enough. Burrell Smith still leaves Russell Endine. Paul Williams under pressure from Steve Billett into Conways. Nothing gained, nothing lost there. Billett gets a little bit too close to Paul Williams. Has to check up, will lose a little bit momentum. So can't strike down the inside of hairpin 2. Not a tidy run off the corner either, and Paul Williams pulls out a couple of cart lengths. Slight lift maybe in Syme's sweep. Cheney ahead of Roger Mullen under pressure from Paul Crawford, rattling across the curbs at Pullmans. Over to Garda. Late turn in can be quite inviting, but the exit is crucial. It determines your speed at the end of the straight into turn 1. Fastest lap times are crucial. They will set the grid for final 2. Burrell Smith on pole at the minute. Tim Williams gets it all wrong on the exit of Cafe Curve. And Williams is under pressure once again. Paul Williams, that is, from Steve Billett. Billett closer coming off hairpin 2. Can he nail the S's? Well, it's pretty good. He moves onto the bumper into Symes. Was that a little bit push wide there for Paul Williams? He gets it back together and is tidy out of paddock. Billett will have to wait a few more corners to try again. Good lines through Garda. Burrell Smith leading out Russell Endine. Look at the gap now that has developed behind Steve Billett. It's Cheney in 5th. Paul Crawford in 6th. Roger Mullen, Lenny Wood, Peter Kay, Rob Nash, Keith Mizzen. That's the 6-way dice that's going on for 6th place. Josh O'Hagan is in 12th. James English 13th. Roger Mullen goes through on Paul Crawford. Crawford should have come straight back at him. I think there might have been a bit of a love tap thing going on there as well. Well, Mullen's got out the corner cleanly, and Crawford is under pressure from Lenny Wood. We ride with Peter Kay. Once again, a bit sideways, missed his apex by quite a distance. Peter Kay, and he will be under pressure from Rob Nash. Bouncing over the curbs on the way to Garda. Wide entry. Anybody going to launch it up the inside? Not quite. Nash not close enough. Uphill through Cafe Curve, it's flat. It's still flat all the way to the braking point. On the brakes into turn 1. Lenny Wood taking a lot of curve, and it's run him out wide. A chance for Peter Kay. They're rubbing wheels down into hairpin 1, but Peter Kay goes through, and Kay is up to 8th, ahead of Lenny Wood, who's got Rob Nash looking for a way by. He took a wide line in to the hairpin, and that's let Keith Mizzen get a run into the S's, and he goes through bravely. Can Nash come straight back at him down at paddock? Mizzen going a little bit wide in the first part of Symes, and Nash sticks his nose in at paddock. Can't get it done, looks over his shoulder, he loses momentum, and Josh O'Hagan begins to close. Russell Endine has provisional pole ahead of Burrell Smith at the moment. Scott Cheney coming through in 5th. Roger Mullen clings on to 6th place. Rob Nash under pressure from Josh O'Hagan, takes a look over his shoulder, and O'Hagan goes through to 11th. And James English is going to get him on the exit. So James English moves up to 12th. Back on board with Peter Kay, still looking at the back of Paul Crawford. Got a little bit too close on the brakes there in the hairpin too, loses a couple of kart lengths. Can he gather that up and get back on it, down to paddock? He's flat through Symes Sweep and Pullman's on the brakes then at paddock. Getting very close to Crawford ahead of him, who's got a run into Garda on Roger Mullen. He goes through cleanly. Now is this a chance for Peter Kay to strike at turn 1? He was flat through Cafe Curve. Mullen coming straight back at Crawford. Now this should be a chance for Peter Kay on the exit. Side by side, it's going to be last of the late breakers into the hairpin, and he goes through. Peter Kay moves up to 7th, but for how long? Oh, Roger Mullen was about to launch one down the inside and then had to get out of it hard on the brakes and span himself out. James English, opportunist move, picks off Josh O'Hagan, who probably had to check up in that incident. Took a lot of curb in Symes Sweep. Could be a chance for O'Hagan to come straight back at him. They're banging side pods over to Garda. Oh, and down the inside, Rob Nash, what a move. Nash gets a couple of spots back, and he'll come through to start the final lap then. Running in 10th place, the final lap board is out. Anwar Barul Smith is on pole position now, having just set the fastest lap. Tim Williams down the inside of Josh O'Hagan, that's for 12th. Russell Endine is running in 2nd place and heading for 2nd on the grid in the 2nd final. Paul Williams has held off Steve Billett down into paddock. Scott Cheney will finish 5th. Here's the battle for 6th, still to be decided. Crawford leading out Peter Kay, Lenny Wood and Keith Mizzen. The checkered flag is ready to start-finish for Anwar Barul Smith. Flag to flag, he wins and has pole position for the 2nd final ahead of Russell Endine. Paul Williams 3rd, Steve Billett 4th. Now Scott Cheney, he finishes 5th on the road but is later demoted for a penalty to 7th. So Paul Crawford finishes 5th ahead of Peter Kay. The last race of the day in the growing gloom of a bitterly cold February late afternoon. Final 1 winner Anwar Barul Smith in pole position. Russell Endine will try and push him from grid 2. Super 1 driver Scott Cheney starts on grid 3 with Paul Williams on the outside. David Sutcliffe, Peter Kay start on row 3. Oliver Hall, Steve Billett, Josh O'Hagan, Paul Crawford round out the top 10. Of a grid that has been extended to 26 as Shane O'Neill and Thomas Barrett join it to make up the last row. Fastest lap times in the first final determined the grid for this one. Anwar Barul Smith controls the pace. The Union flag is flying and we're racing down into turn 1. We're on board with Peter Kay. There's a lot of jockeying for position. Josh O'Hagan and Lenny Wood making contact. Barul Smith's got into hairpin 1 and Russell Endine's run wide. Steve Billett getting down the inside of Keith Mizzen, trying to get on the bumper of Paul Williams with that blue lid. Barul Smith's made it into the S's ahead of David Sutcliffe, who's made a good start. Scott Cheney trying to hold off Russell Endine. Down, oh, and Josh O'Hagan was trying to go down the inside of Symes Sweep. That very rarely works and usually ends up with a big one down at paddock. Around Garda, O'Hagan banging wheels once again. Somebody got very close to the camera there and I think's knocked it out. We're on board here, I believe, with James English, trying to find a way past Rob Nash down at the back of the field. So David Sutcliffe has made a better fist to the start of this one and is currently just about on the bumper of your race leader and final 1 winner Anwar Barul Smith, and Sutcliffe goes through. Clean as you like down at hairpin 2. Now let's see what Barul Smith's got for David Sutcliffe, and Russell Endine's got ahead of Scott Cheney, who's also lost out to Paul Williams. Back on board with Peter Kay, trying to find a way past Steve Billett. Got a bit too close, but he is down the inside of paddock. Oh, Billett on the outside, Keith Mizzen dives in, and Oliver Hall trying to find a way in there as well. Oliver Hall's made good progress off the back of the first B final. Josh O'Hagan trying to find a way past Billett. Billett getting slapped around quite a bit there. Oh, David Sutcliffe makes a mistake, and Barul Smith cruises by and clearly wants to sort it out with Sutcliffe at the end of this final. but I'm not sure David wants to play, and he's straight back down the inside of hairpin 2. The undercut on for Anwar. Into the S's, no, he'll stick on the bumper. And back comes Russell Endine. Now perhaps Sutcliffe sees it's going to be necessary as Ben Shaw's looking to keep it off the tyres. Oh, wheel to wheel with James English, Endine down the inside of Anwar. And Burrell Smith is back to third, and here comes Paul Williams inside of Garda with an opportunist move. Oh, there's a bit of contact there with Scott Cheney. Well, Burrell Smith's got his work cut out here as David Sutcliffe leads Russell Endine, Paul Williams, and Burrell Smith's coming straight back at Williams for third into turn 1. He can't afford to let Sutcliffe and Endine get away. Scott Cheney now down the inside of Paul Williams, who's going to get hung out to dry on the outside and may yet lose out to Keith Mizzen. Road goes back in his favour. Peter Gay sticks his nose in. That'll slow down Keith Mizzen. Into the S's with Peter Kay. Where's Mizzen? Squeezing through. Down to Pullmans and Paddock. And here comes Peter Kay, Keith Mizzen. It's all action in the midfield. Oh, and Keith Mizzen's looking to keep it off the tyres. Loses out to Hall, and Hall jumps past Peter Kay. What a run from Oliver Hall out of that first B final. He's going to come through in 6th place at the end of lap 4 of the second final. Josh O'Hagan looking for a way past Peter Kay as the rest of the field stream through. Roger Mullen further back this time. Peter Kay down the inside of Oliver Hall. Russell Endine goes through on David Sutcliffe for the lead. Sutcliffe trying to run around the outside. It's a drag race and they're rubbing tyres into the S's. Endine into the lead. Back on board with James English. Trying to gain spots. Oh, Endine goes very deep into Simon Sweep. Doesn't lose anything. Sutcliffe sawing at the wheel once again down at Paddock. And Burrell Smith will be down the inside of Garda, and Scott Cheney gets his nose inside. Ross Lester was dicing with James English earlier on. Now he's got Liam Hitchin on his bumper. Bit of contact going on here. I think this is with Ben Shaw. Everybody fighting tooth and nail for any position they can gain. David Sutcliffe then was leader for a while. He's now down to 4th place behind Scott Cheney, with Paul Williams behind. Peter Kay under pressure from Oliver Hall still. Running over the Gia block. Will that give Hall a chance down at Paddock? And David Sutcliffe's trying to come back at Scott Cheney. Sweeping through. Steve Billett's got Josh O'Hagan on his bumper. Paul Crawford trying to close on Keith Mizzen. That's for 11th place. Crawford to the inside of Garda gets it done. So Mizzen down to 12th. Coming through to start lap 7 of this 16-lap second final. And Anwar Burrell Smith is trying to run down Russell Endine. Paul Williams under pressure from Peter Kay here. Kay looks to the inside of hairpin 2, not close enough. Trying to get a good run off the corner. He loses a cart length into the S's. Will he gain it? Enough of it back through Pullmans for a shot at Paddock. Not quite close enough. And Oliver Hall isn't a million miles away of trying to set up a move for Garda. Getting a run, not close enough. Steve Billett trying to close with Josh O'Hagan. Tim Williams running well in 10th place this time. But it's Endine, Burrell Smith, Cheney, Sutcliffe, Williams, Peter Kay, Oliver Hall. Steve Billett under pressure from Josh O'Hagan. Looking to the inside at turn 1. And Billett gets a run on Oliver Hall. Is he close enough for hairpin 1? No, he's not, but he's very close. He's right under his bumper. Hall ran wide. Who's this? This is Ben Shaw coming from a long way back on James English. And Ben Shaw moves up to 19th. Endine and Burrell Smith clear of Cheney for now. Peter Kay under pressure from Oliver Hall, under pressure from Steve Billett. Coming round to finish lap 8, we're at half distance. Russell Endine's lead, well, it's no lead at all. It's 0.07 of a second, and Burrell Smith is back in front. Picked up the toes, got the lead back. And now he's on the defensive to hold off Endine for a couple of corners, and then he can concentrate on driving away from the field. I'm sure that's the plan. Good exit from hairpin 2. Pulls out a cart length into the S's. Got to nail Syme Sweep this time, and he's done it. Now he's got to get it hauled up neatly and tidily for Paddock, and he's done that as well, and he's definitely got a cart length on Russell Endine. Up to Garda. Now can he out-drag him? He's been particularly strong out of Garda up to turn 1. Can Endine come back at him? It's end of lap 9, on to lap 10. Endine in the tow. Not close enough. I think Scott Cheney's coming back to them. Yes, he is. Endine now's got to be careful. He's got to time a move on Anwar Barul-Smith perfectly, or Scott Cheney's going to come through. Down the inside of hairpin 2, lovely move. It's the crisscross on for Endine. Cheney now wants to debate. Whoa, with Endine. Should they work together to run Barul-Smith down? And look at the gap that it's given Anwar. It's now out of 4 or 5 car lengths. Cheney on the bumper of Endine. This is what Barul-Smith wants. David Sutcliffe, a watching brief, in 4th. Paul Williams in 5th. Comfortable ahead of Peter Kay, pretty much. Oliver Hall under pressure from Steve Billett in 7th. Josh O'Hagan looking for a way past the super heavyweight driver as well. Down the inside of the turn 1 at Conways, can't get it done. Tim Williams trying to come back at them. And it's getting awfully dark. Evening is definitely upon us at Buckmore Park. It's only going to get colder. There's only going to be less grip. Into the S's again. And it looks as though Josh O'Hagan wants to be by Steve Billett. Into Pullman's. Not close enough. Further back, Keith Mizzen's lost ground on Sam Fisher. Lenny Wood, Roger Mullen, Ben Wibley, Liam Hitchin. Back on board with James English. Ben Shaw ahead of us on the defensive, who Shaw tries to hang on to 18th place. Around Cafe Curve. Head down, doing his best, trying to stay ahead of Ross Lester. Car number 6 there was Thomas Barrett, who did well in that second B final. Cheney has tried and failed to find a way past Russell Endine for second. And Anwar's not getting away. And they're beginning to drop Paul Williams in this second group, beginning with 5th place. It's looking like it almost might turn into a 6-7 way dice there for 5th. Williams is going to have to do his best to stay clear. But it's Barul-Smith under pressure from Endine, Scott Cheney, David Sutcliffe. This looks like most of the real speed in this final. Bodes well for a good championship if they're all in it. Endine on the defensive to hold off Cheney. Tries to square off the corner to slow Cheney down. That might give Sutcliffe a chance, but it is releasing Anwar once again. Through Syme Sweep, and the gap is growing to Paul Williams, who's himself beginning to drop Peter Kay. Bit sideways through Pullman's and into Paddock. Paul Crawford, I think he's just gone past Tim Williams, and Sam Fisher's going to go through as well into Garda. So Paul Crawford moves into 10th. Tim Williams hangs on to 11th. Got the aerodynamic hindrance of his suit open to the crotch. Or is it a fleece? It's difficult to tell. I think it's a fleece. Back on board with James English, still trying to find a way past Ben Shaw. That's the fight for 18th place. Ben Wibley sideways into Lenny Wood, and James English, I think, clipped him as well. Looks like an apology from Ben Shaw there. James English jumps in. Yeah, not very impressed with that. Not entirely think that James English is at fault there. Sam Fisher finally gets his move done on Tim Williams. We're coming round to start the penultimate lap. Anwar Barul-Smith has got 0.3 of a second on Russell Endine, Scott Cheney and David Sutcliffe. 3 seconds clear of Paul Williams in 5th, who looks good for that position. Peter Kay under pressure from Oliver Hall, has to cut across his nose. And now a chance for Steve Billett to close on Hall. Up to hairpin 1. Can he throw one down the inside of hairpin 2? Not close enough. Oliver Hall able to take the wide line in for the late apex. The perfect line. Can he get through the S's cleanly? Yes, he has. Now is he closing on Peter Kay through Syme Sweep? I think he is. He's very close. Down at Paddock, but not close enough. Keith Mizzen trying to close in on Tim Williams. James English trying to close on Liam Hitchin. Ben Shaw struggling. I think the temperature's dropping so much. Ross Lester's going to get a run into Garda. Shaw gets the door closed and stays in 17th place. The final lap board is already out. It goes out for Roger Mullen. He appears to be heading for 14th place. The field streaming through. Already in the S's, Anwar Barul Smith. Still only a kart length or so ahead of Russell Endine. There's only 2 corners left where moves can really be made. That's one at Paddock, he's not close enough. One last chance to throw it down the inside of Garda. Barul Smith, he knows he's there. Squeezes him to the inside, and the road goes in his favour out of the centre chicane. He's going to have a run up to Cafe Curve that Barul Smith's got covered. It's 2 wins for Anwar Barul Smith and the lead of the championship just ahead of Russell Endine. A great race in heavyweights. Got Cheney and David Sutcliffe making it quite a run at the front. Paul Williams picks up 5th. Well, darkness fell over the trophy ceremony, and with no portable lights, it was like an episode of Ghost Watch. Club 100 head off to Bayford Meadows in early April for round 2, hopefully for everyone. They'll be thawed out by then, and we'll be blessed with warm spring sunshine, as karting, like Just Racing Magazine's coverage, always looks better under blue skies. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the show. That's it for now, and we'll see you next time on Just Racing Magazine.